progressive. It's uncontrollable pain, chronic fatigue and deformities, and for many it significantly reduces quality of life. So the CMT Awareness Month kicks off today. It's going to raise awareness of symptoms amongst those who've not yet been diagnosed. Let's talk to Paul Fleming, who's a trustee and vice chairman of the charity Charcot-Marie-Tooth UK. Good to see you.
Thanks for having me.
I've got to say, I've never heard of this, and there are what, 23,000 people in the UK that we know of who are affected.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a lot of people.
It's a lot of people, and you're not alone in not being aware of it. In many forms, CMT doesn't have a lot of visible symptoms, so the people that carry it have, very little impairment. In its most aggressive forms, you can be in a wheelchair, so it can be very debilitating, but clinicians and so forth often haven't heard of it. I was diagnosed when about 13, 14 years old, and my GP had never heard of it.
I mean, that's the problem. It's all well and good me not knowing about it, but if a GP doesn't know about it, then you've got real problems.
Yeah. They can't know about everything, to be fair. So that's part of the Awareness Month at CMT UK. Is not only to make the public aware of CMT, but also to make GPs and so forth. We have a video on the website which is great. It's only a minute long, and it gives the background to the condition and what people should look for.
And how has it affected you?
In a number of ways. It's progressive, so it gets worse over time. They picked up on it, as I say, when I was about 13 or 14, and it causes drop foot in the feet, so it affects the tendons that hold your feet up, and that's normally the first sign. So I think I was 14 years old walking along the road, and I couldn't, had my shoes loosely fastened as you do at that age, very cool, and I couldn't hold my feet up, and someone said to me, will you lift your feet when you walk? And just something as simple as that triggered it. But it's in my family. My dad has it, his father had it, his grandfather had it, so it was a common knowledge in our family that it was there.
There's the idea of obviously, people who have this, you want them to be diagnosed, but what help is then available? Yeah,
it's a good point. The charity that I'm involved with gives a whole host of different support levels. So, for example, if it's just support for parents that children have perhaps just been diagnosed, or someone that's been diagnosed much later in life and feels quite alone and quite isolated, there's various different professionals to speak to, different bodies to be put in touch with for support, psychologically and physically. So, from braces for ankles and support for wrists and so forth, because it affects your hands as well, weakening of the muscles. Surgeons, I've had surgery on my ankle and surgery on my right hand, and there's various support people out there.
Are there any particular people that are particularly susceptible to it? I mean, you had a very sporty background, quite sort of progressive ice hockey you played.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't. There's no rhyme or reason for CMT. It can pop up in a child or in an adult with no prior history, for example. I'm no medical authority on CMT, but it's a condition that as it progresses, it gets worse. So you begin to pick up on it.
Well, in terms of that, I mean, I wonder, where does that leave you? I mean, how old are you now?
32.
Young, very young compared to us too. So you've known about this for half of your life, thereabouts. What sort of prognosis does that give you when you look at how it's progressed through that sort of 15 or 16 years?
Yeah, it has got worse. There's no doubt about that. In fact, I feel more affected by it now than I did when I was 15, 16, when you're probably pretty vulnerable as a young person. I work in the city in London. You have to walk. You often have to walk to meetings. I've got drop foot in both feet. I've had surgery on my right to correct it, but I still have difficulty walking. But actually, it's a silent disease. People can't really see it unless you point it out to them. So they say, "What's wrong with you? Why are you walking so slowly?" These kind of things, and that psychologically it can be quite difficult to deal with. I think you have to be fairly strong character to be constantly reminded of that. But people that point it out every now and then, but. It's something you just have to live with.
Is it the first thing you think of when you wake up in the morning?
No, it's not. It's not. I've family support. I've got a career and so forth. I've got lots of things to think about in the morning before I think about CMT. Yeah. But as soon as I step out the door, I'd think about walking. So yeah.
For anyone who wants information, what's the website?
cmt.org.uk.
Okay.
There's a whole host of information on there. There's a telephone line. The video is excellent. I'd encourage anyone just to watch the video. And just look for the telltale signs: drop foot, tripping up, young people tripping up. It's often the first, if you're tripping a lot when you're walking, ask your GP or have a look on the website.
The more we know, the more we can help.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Paul, really good to see you. Thanks you very much indeed. 32 though, still very, very young compared to...
I could be his